blaming the victim. But then the question will now be, you see, they say the youth is the leader of tomorrow.
Not today.
If the youth is always shifting the responsibility to those he elected, doesn't the youth have a responsibility to the country?
But why is it a function of shifting responsibility? It's
Why
their
should
job.
there be responsibility
No, but it's
shifted?
their job. So it's not, it's the
Proper
narrative
placement
of
of
responsibility.
responsibility.
They are the duty
Proper
bearers.
placement.
Youth has
Exactly.
so, for instance, I have a responsibility to vote. Now, INEC has moved away my power for voting by not giving me my PVC.
Have you
I've
gone
written,
to have you
I've
gone
gone
to
there,
collect it?
I've written 3 letters.
Okay, you haven't.
So yes, so I'm a citizen. I'm not a member of a political party. I'm a citizen who now wants to exercise my duty to vote, and INEC cannot provide my PVC. So to that extent, I am a victim. That's, I can be the most informed and engaged citizen in the world if the responsibility lies on INEC to give me a PVC, and INEC doesn't do that. Then I can't do anything. I'm a victim.
Okay. Let me just hold your thoughts there. We need to find out from our correspondent, Yemi, what happened in Jos. Yemi Kosoko from Jos, what's the situation?
Political activities on the plateau has really picked up. Earlier in the week, the People's Democratic Party flagged off its gubernatorial campaign for 2015. And earlier today, the APC had its presidential candidate in Jos, Plateau State, at the Rampant Township Stadium, where a large crowd received the presidential candidate and its entourage during the rally. Highlights of the event included the reception of PDP members into the fold of APC. Particularly, former Deputy Governor of Plateau State, Dame Pauline Talen, was one of the PDP members that cross-carpeted to the APC, alongside a former ITF DG and a member of PDP, Professor Wapmuk, who was also received into the fold of APC. During his speech at the Rampant Township Stadium, APC presidential candidate General Muhammadu Buhari advised youth not to be used as thugs in political campaigns. Also echoing the same is the flag bearer of Plateau State for APC governorship candidate, Simon Lalong, who also cautioned youth not to be used as political thugs during the electioneering campaign. All these are geared towards having a peaceful, credible, and acceptable 2015 general elections. Back to you in Lagos.
Thank you, Yemi. And that's what's happening in Jos, the Plateau State capital. But our correspondent, Charles Eruka, is standing by in Rivers State to give us an update of the situation in Rivers. Hello, Charles.
Hello, Nota. Thank
Yes,
you
Charles.
very much. Well, here in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, there is, well, how will I put it? There is a lot of intensity in political activity, cautious intensity, so to say. Like today, we had sort of a rally, although the stakeholders did say it was not a rally per se, but it was just a gathering of the different ethnicities resident here in Rivers State that's talking about the Rivers non-indigents who assembled at the Shark Stadium to demonstrate their support for the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Mr. Dakuku Peter side. Well, that's on the side of the APC, also on the side of the People's Democratic Party. Well, they have their own gatherings, they have their own meetings, and they have their own strategy sessions. But the key ingredient in the whole of these is the participation of the young people, talking about the youth. Now, that's an expression that has acquired different meanings, different dimensions. But looking at it holistically, we are talking about the people between the ages of 20 and 30 comfortably, and then maybe those in their 40s and 50s who may have that youthful energy and exuberance. Now, the fear is that these are the ones who generally are used to disrupt elections, to cause mayhem, and to engage in violence. But the key message at all the rallies and gatherings that we have covered so far is that the youth, the young people, should not allow themselves to be used as elements or agents of violence and disruption during the elections from 2015, and of course at the clarion call for the populace to come out in their numbers, whether they are indigenous or non-indigenous of Rivers State, to come out in their numbers and cast their vote for the candidates of their choice. Well, that's how it has been in this part of the country. Yesterday we were in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, where the People's Democratic Party's governorship candidate also flagged up his own campaign. And of course, the same call that, look, this time around, let us have peaceful elections, let us not have violence, and let young people and people of all ages to wit come out. It should be a question of one man and one vote. So in Rivers State, and particularly the capital, Port Harcourt, well, it is a cautious sense of anticipation in the air, because indeed the activity between the APC and the People's Democratic Party has indeed reached fever pitch.
All right. Thank you very much, Charles. Our correspondent, Charles Eruka, reporting from Port Harcourt, the River State capital, on the situation there. He also spoke about what happened in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. Now, some of the things he mentioned here, he talked about the fact that, Yemi talked about the APC presidential candidate asking youth not to allow themselves to be used as thugs, a message that was re-echoed in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, that the youth do not allow themselves to be used as thugs in these elections. Yemi, you notice when we talk about violence or thuggery in the elections, it's always been the youth. Now, it brings back again the question I asked earlier. Do the youth of Nigeria know their role to the nation? Why do you think they almost always seem to let themselves be used as thugs in elections?
I mean, there would always be, we're talking about youth very broadly. So with any segment of society, there would always be people who sort of deviate or do things differently. And I mean, I don't see, it's not an old person that will be used for violence. It will have to be a young person. So it goes with that, it really goes without saying based on the demographic. I mean, for me, a classic example, which in terms of teaching that we always use, we'll use Ekiti as an example. So I think in the previous gubernatorial elections, a young man who was fighting for one of the political candidates got shot. And then you fast forward 5 years, and both of those candidates are now in the same party. So it's always just a constant reminder that it's not worth you losing your life for that. But it's the context that really allows us to happen. And it's quite encouraging from the presidential candidates who have signed up sort of a no-violence peace pact. We're trying to do that across at the state level as well. Someone like Two-Face has Vote Not Fight campaign going on. So it needs to be reinforced continuously that it's really not worth putting your life for such a cause.
Okay, we'll take another break and we'll come back to continue the conversation. During the break, we'll be listening to the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, talk about Nigeria and the elections 2015.